and I wanted only the best for my daughters. And so finally I talked them into letting me homeschool, and that was so nice. And I started early. I started really right from the crib. I learned about routines. I learned about structure. I learned about manners. I learned training. I called it, what do we call it, booty camp? Yeah, I would set up traps in the house, and I would put them through it. And I guess I hope Gracie doesn't get mad at me. I can tell. Okay. Erica was my obedient, and Gracie was my disobedient. So I got one of each. And the Lord taught me so many lessons through my children. It was such a blessing, and this was, very important to me. And so, like, one of the traps was, I'd set the coffee table up, and I'd put different things on there. And I would tell Erica at age 2, okay, Erica, don't touch. And she'd go, okay. And she'd leave. And I was like, well, why can't other parents do this? So easy. And then I got Gracie. And at 2, I decided I was going to do this whole gamut with her. And my girls were on a schedule from day one. I brought them home. You will be nursing at this time, this time, this time. You're going to get 2 ounces, 4 ounces, I had everything scheduled. I was a perfectionist and but the Lord worked with me in that area. And he showed me we don't really need to be quite so perfectionist, but and Gracie was going to teach me this.
Amen.
This was like Gracie and I are very close, and so are Erica and I, but in different ways, totally different ways, night and day. And so anyway, Gracie came around, 2 years old, and I said, okay, Gracie, we're going to have our first lesson here. But I forgot to tell you. So I trained them, from birth. I wouldn't let them sleep in the bed with me because I had understood that it's too easy to enable them in bad behaviors, and so I separated them, upstairs, downstairs. And anyway, so they were learning routines and things like that. That's where booty camp really started. But then, and if they cried, they were allowed to cry up to 2.5 hours a day. We let them cry, because it's good for their lungs, it's good for their voice. And one day my husband came home, and I was on the couch, and he had a lawn business on the side that I helped him with, because he was a firefighter for the city of Atlanta in Atlanta, Georgia. And so he had 1 day on, 24 on, 48 off. So we got really good with that schedule. That was a good schedule. And one day he came home, and Gracie was upstairs screaming bloody murder. And I was downstairs on the couch, and with his lawn equipment, I had this big headphones on from his wind blower, the leaf blower. And I was just sitting there, so nice. She did not want to cooperate with me, because by 8 weeks old, I had Erica sleeping through the night. She never cried, hardly ever. I mean, I had Erica just perfectly. This one was a challenge. She was not going to cooperate. She was not going to do what I wanted her to do. And so by week 8, I was just, anyway. And so he came home, and he's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? He pulled those things off of me, and I jumped. So anyway, I learned, the child, you don't do what the child says. The child does what you say. And so, again, these are all lessons, submission and all that. And booty camp, I'll just tell you real quick about the coffee table. I put out the Cheerios and the raisins and things like that. And Gracie, don't touch. And I expected her to be just like Erica, and she went bam, 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 bam. I was like, wow. So we've got a different child. So anyway, moving forward, let's see, I learned more dependence on the Lord through training my children. Homeschool, that was a whole nother lesson for me. And then I came to a point where I guess Gracie was probably about 9. I started noticing that people in my family and people in my husband's family were getting sick and getting cancer, a lot of people. And so that really kind of made me concerned, and I didn't like to see that. And I counted up one time in 5 years, 9 people combined, his family and mine, had cancer, and most of them were dead. And I thought, that's just way too much cancer, way too much. What's going on? Is it in the water, and things like that. So I started my health ministry at that point. And then it really hit me closely, because I really liked my father-in-law. He is such a good man, and he had Hodgkin's disease, cancer, lymphoma. And so he's a very quiet man, very quiet. He's very intelligent. And when he speaks, everybody listens because he didn't speak very often. And he was very careful about what he said. He thought about a lot of things. And we always had a very good relationship. One day he came to me and he said, he called me at home, and he never did that. And we had a 30-minute conversation, and he said, well, I've been diagnosed with this. I know you've been studying some things. I want you to show me what you know. I want to do this naturally. I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to. So I gathered up back then it was very little information. It was, what is her name out in California? She was the chief of
Dr. Day.
Yes. Lorraine Day. Thank you. That was my first introduction, really, and we didn't have internet back then. I mean, I think it was we did. It was in the very early stages, so not a lot of people were uploading things. So I had to go to the library, and I had to do a lot of my own work and get audio tapes, cassettes and things like that. Well, anyway, so I went over. He was having a retirement party. He retired from the FBI, and so went over to the retirement. I told him I would bring him the stuff. Went there, brought him the stuff, but we had a little crash collision. Because my mother-in-law and I had some issues. We didn't really get along so well. We tried, and so she didn't like me to talk with him. And so I put everything in a box and I gave it to him. He said, thank you, turned around, went through this sea of people that had come to his thing, and went this way. And their house had a center section. It was an open floor plan. And he took the box, walked away, went this way, and he disappeared. And next thing you know, I look up and she's got the box. And she's coming at me and she goes, we don't want this. Wow. We're going to go to the doctors. And I was like, okay. That was the end of it. And sadly to say, he died. And so anyway, that just really hurt me. And so I started my medical missionary program right there. And I just learned and grew and started helping my neighbors left and right. And I was just really, the Lord was blessing me so much. And so they say the health message is the right hand to the gospel, or the right arm to the gospel. And that is really true in my situation, because as the years went by, I had quite a bit of people calling me and emailing me and asking me for help, and I was really happy because what the Lord had taught me was really working, and I was building my confidence and just loving all this. And then my husband he was also, well, he was many things, but he was also a personal trainer. And so he went to a gym, he worked at a gym, and this lovely couple, mom and son, came in. And long story short, her husband was the president of an Adventist hospital. I had never heard of an Adventist hospital, because if you could get the most Babylon school in America, it would have been my high school. It was awful, and I never even heard of what a Seventh-day Adventist was, much less a health message or anything. So he met this lady and her son, and he came back and he told me, he said, Sharyn, you won't believe it. I met the most wonderful lady. You got to meet her. I told her all about you. She homeschools, and y'all have so much in common, and she's invited us over for dinner. And guess what? She doesn't eat meat. I hadn't put that connection together yet. I was more into herbs and organics, And so I was like, oh, she doesn't eat meat, really? Well, I was starting to put some things together, but not quite. And so we went to her house. Well, she happened to be a gourmet chef. I just was so blown away at her cooking. It was amazing. And they were so sweet. And then 9/11 happened. And he was also in the Air Force. So he got called off to 1-year duty for that. And so that left me at home with the girls. And after all the things I was studying about health, I decided I was going to go for it. I met the Kylies later. I forgot anyway, so I did the vegan. No, wait, I met the Kylies. That was my introduction to vegan. And then we kind of lost touch. So I did the move. I went to vegan. It was really crazy. It's a whole other story. It's a funny story. And then the Kylies called me up, and they started inviting me over for Sabbath afternoon Bible study. But they knew I was a Sunday keeper, and I was very involved in my Sunday church. And they were very, very fragile and careful with me and everything. And I learned so much. But the first night, I got to tell you, when I was coming home, my husband was driving, and I said, boy, what a nice family. That was just a wonderful meal. Everything was so nice. How are we going to tell them that they've got the wrong day, though? They just, that was like done away with. It's Sunday now. And that got me thinking. And then they started calling, I started learning through the Kylies about the Sabbath. And that was just beautiful. So, more and more I studied, and we learned more. And then my husband said, let's talk about baptism and stuff. And he was really learning a lot, and I was so happy. He was grasping it. I was grasping it. We had this pastor come into our house once a week doing all those studies with us, and we did the contract and, and all these wonderful things. And so we went and got baptized, all four of us, because the girls did the studies too. And it was really beautiful. We had this nice baptismal, and all four of us were there. We had two pastors, and they baptized all of us together, and it was just really sweet. And but there were problems in the marriage, and then soon after, things got worse in the marriage. And he didn't want to be vegan anymore because he didn't like the vegan meals I was making him to take to because you're not a real man if you don't eat meat in the city of Atlanta. And they were having listening sandwiches. Do y'all know what a listening sandwich is? That's a fried pig ear sandwich. And that's what they eat down there at the firehouse. So, yeah. So my husband and I started going in separate ways in a very quick amount of time. And we had just built a custom home, and stress of all that. And so anyway, we were just going different ways in our spiritual walk. And I wanted more present truth. I was really hungering for that. I hadn't gone through dress reform yet or anything like that. But as soon as he left, I was on my own with the girls, and I got full-time custody. And I said, this is amazing. I have the most amazing opportunity. So our church was really great. They offered for my girls. We had so much love in that church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They offered to put my girls all the way through academy, and starting in elementary school. So they were 3rd and 5th grade, and then 4th and 5th. Oh no, 4th and 5th, and then 5th and 6th. 6th and 7th, yeah. So they were 2 years apart. Anyway, the love just poured in. We had so many people loving us. I was overwhelmed. I knew I didn't deserve any of that, but I just couldn't believe it. Then people were coming up saying, well, we've got everything paid for academy. All you have to do is just send them, And but anyway, 2 years into it, the girls loved it. But then 2 years into it, they started seeing some worldliness, and we were doing studies on the side. And Erica taught me so much about dress reform, and I was teaching my girls, of course, about health reform. I was learning about what Ellen White said. It was really coming in fast. So a lot of things that in my journey happened very fast right after we got our divorce. And I was just so thankful for that. I almost see it like a separation of the wheat and tares, And that's sad to say because I want him to be the wheat too. And I really, I still pray for him that he will still come around. But anyway, I just, present truth, the Lord just kept putting more and more people in this liberal church, the right people. We met the Tallises, which are dear friends of mine, and they were showing me, do you understand about Daniel 11 verses 40 through 44? And I'm like, no. And they're like, all right. So they just took me in and came to my house every Sabbath, and we started studying. We started studying kind of the wrong things too, but then they came and showed me the right things. And so it was just, trial and error. But then I crossed paths with Gary Holquist. Part of the thing is I moved to Florida with the girls because I wasn't able to get work. Because when you're stay-at-home mom for 12 years or however many, the world doesn't really like that, and they don't accept that. And even though I kept up with my computer skills and things like that, I put out so many resumes and applications, and nobody, even my conference, I was like, please, I'll be your janitor. I'll do anything, just hire me, And I had to start my own business and cleaning, and I got a lot of commercial accounts, and the Lord held me through that. That was great, but I wanted a little bit more security and everything. So long story short, I ended up going to Florida to be with my mom, and I had my own place. She gave us a house, and I was setting up my Glory Star because I'm this strong Adventist, and I got my Glory Star 3ABN satellite. And the man from the local church there in High Springs came over and he set it up for me. And anyway, we were flipping through channels, and he came across BETV, and he says, oh yeah, don't pay attention to them. You're gonna find that some Adventists are not really there, And I was like, oh. When he leaves, I'm going to watch it. Because I want to know everything. And so I started watching it, and I was amazed. And then we started going back to that church, and I met my good dear friend, sweet sister Amy, and she started to understand a little bit about the feast and was setting it. So next thing you know, we kept our first Passover together. I moved to Florida in January. I met her in February, and by end of March or April, whenever that was, we kept our first Passover. It was wonderful, and we were sewing and learning how to sew. Erica and Gracie were teaching me and Amy, and we were just learning all kinds of fun little things and just really enjoying ourselves. And anyway, a year later, I moved back to Atlanta suburb called, and then I looked on the internet and I saw that there was a meeting around Tabernacles. No, it was Passover. 2013, was it? 13? Yeah, and so I found out about this place called Talking Rock Sabbath Temple. So I called him and I talked to a man named Frank Klin. He had answered the phone, and I said, "Are you guys having a feast? You're only an hour away from me, really?" And he goes, "Oh, not everybody does that here." I'm like, "Excuse me? Can you speak up?" And he goes, "Yes, we get together for our camp meetings, and yes, and I was like, "Well, I want to book a reservation. How do I do it? Who do I talk to?" And he goes, "Okay, I'll take your reservation." He's such a calm, nice man, and just a sweet man. And so anyway, the girls and I showed up. We didn't know anything about a father and son. That's what it was. We were thinking we were coming to a Passover. And so I show up, and I don't know how many of you might know Jonathan Otto. He was my first introduction, because we just walked in, didn't we? And we were looking at all the stuff on the table, and I'm like, "Oh wow, what's this? And where's the feast stuff?" And then I hear this Australian accent behind me going, "Hello," however y'all do it. And I turn around, and there's this big lens right in my face. And I was like, "Hello." And he was so nice. He welcomed me and met the girls, and everybody was so nice. And then I met Laurel and Michael. And we hit it off, and we were like buddies. We were roommates, in the same cabin mates. And we walked up Amakalula Falls together, and I shared some things. That's when I shared with her. I was like, I'm not really sure what's all going on around here, but I came for the feast. And she wasn't sure. Yeah, I know, that's what she called you, and she's like, "I guess what you said, Guess what?" And then John Vandenberg was there. That's how I found out about it, because John Vandenberg was there. And Sandy had emailed me, and she goes, "My dad's going to be in Talking Rock. Are you near Talking Rock?" I remember now. That's how I learned about Talking Rock. I said, "Talking Rock? No, what's that?" I'm going to look them up. So that's how I met Frank on the phone. And anyway, so then Amy and I started talking about it after that. And she goes, "What about that father-son thing? What do you think?" And I said, "I don't really know what to think about it, but, I don't really have time to study it, so I'm not going to worry about it." And then I did, I got a job. Actually, it was a Joseph story. I was willing to scrub the tile floor with my toothbrush, because I was still having trouble finding work. I had to leave Florida because the relationship with my mother and I was terrible, and it just wasn't good. And so I had to leave, and we fled. And then finally, the Lord, I worked at Starbucks, of all places. I don't know. Y'all have a Starbucks here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I worked at Starbucks. I was desperate, minimum wage, bottom of the barrel, under the 5:30 in the morning shift, and it was awful. And I told them, I said, "But I am Seventh-day Adventist, so I can't work on the Sabbath." And they really, they were that's no problem. We'll honor that. And I said, "I'll work every Sunday," So it all worked out well. I only worked there 3 months, and it was really fun. I was able to be a witness to a lot of people there, and surrounded by all of this junk food, and it was just awful, dairy, everything, everything against what I was. And I thought, wow, this is a real test. Not that I'm tempted, but I need to be a light here. And so I was, and I started sharing things, and I still keep in touch with a couple of people. They still follow me. And anyway, and so then this dream job came through. I was offered a job as a life enrichment director at a assisted living, where they did, they had Alzheimer and dementia, as well as non-Alzheimer and dementia. And so it was a beautiful place to work. It was wonderful. I fell in love with all my residents. I was in charge of them having a good time. It was a great job. And so, and then that Adrian and Laurel heard a lot of Skyping from me. I can't work 16 more hours. I can't do 16-hour days anymore. You know, it was just overwhelming. And the timing was perfect. I said, I got to get out of this. I got to do something different. So I became a certified colon hydrotherapist and lymphatic massage therapist, and I was already a raw food chef, certified raw food chef. So did all that, and Gary Hallquist, I started going to Talking Rock, and he was telling me, he says, well, how is your clinic? Because I opened up a clinic with my friend, and her husband is an oral surgeon, and he really believed, because I put her through a program, and he saw a night and day difference. He was so fully supportive, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying to hurry. So anyway, he asked me, he said, well, how's it things going? I said, well, right now we're kind of at a standstill. It's not going the way I want it to. So, yeah, I'm still at Morning Point, but, you know, we're going to try to make this work. And he said, great. I'm so glad to hear that. Oh, thanks. Okay. And he says, I've got an idea. Can you stay for a minute? And I said, oh, sure. So he said, get in the golf cart, because Gary likes golf carts, and now I do too. So he put me in the golf cart, and he drove me up to this wooded area, and he said, come here, I want to show you this. And we walked, and I had the girls with me, and we walked out this, you know, square block of woods, and he says, can you picture this? I want to do a lifestyle center, and I want you to be the director. And I want to know what your input is, and let's do this together. And I was like, oh, really? I thought, wow, this is too good to be true. I'm not going to put all my money in this account, you know, and or eggs in a basket. And I was just like, yeah, that's nice. I just really didn't believe him. It's just too good to be true. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. I got to go back to work, the real world, you know. And so he was like, I'm going to build you an apartment downstairs, and you know, Gary is just so precious, as many of you know, and he just gave me the opportunity of a lifetime as my dream job, and so that's where we are now. And he even let me name it. I named it Eden Point. So I said, you name it what you want. He goes, no, I like it, because I was naming the other place Eden Point Therapeutics. So he says, I really like Eden Point. Let's stick with that, and we'll just call it Lifestyle Center and drop the therapeutics. And then I started learning more about the Father and Son, and now I always understood, you know, the loving Father always made sense to me. I never understood why anybody would believe it, and why I just didn't understand why the Old Testament was written the way it was. But I never for a moment doubted that I could serve a God that would kill me. That just didn't make sense. And that I could serve a God that could have two sets of rules, one for me and one for him. Like, he could break the commandments, but I couldn't. That didn't make sense either if we're supposed to be following after his example. And so anyway, that's how I got here. I'm not a good storyteller, so I hope that all makes sense and I brought it back around for you.
Gracie, Gracie, up again. Add something.
I'm not really sure what to share, but I just want to say that it's been a blessing to meet all of you guys and be around everyone. It's just been wonderful. I was telling Ben earlier, but this is the favorite feast I've ever been to. I'm just so thankful to be here.
Amen.
Yay! Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me.